Hello everyone, today I'm here to review for you Nekojima, which I think I'm pronouncing correctly. This is from Unfriendly Games for 1 to 5 players, seeing dexterity, goodness and kind of quirky lookingness as well, as you're putting out these electrical poles and even dangling cats off some of the wires. Yes, let's go through how you play the game roughly, give you some pros and cons to let you know if you should be adding it to your collection, and just so you're aware, it was provided to me by the distributor for the review. So over the course of the game, you and the teammates that you're with are going to be building up these power lines, slowly stacking them on the different coloured quadrants of the base and on top of each other, making sure that the poles don't touch unless they're stacked on top of each other and that the wires don't touch either. And then sometimes, as I alluded to, dangling cats off some of the wires and also making sure that they don't touch the floor, other wires and stuff like that. So on your turn, you're going to roll the 2 dice. These are going to give you the 2 different locations that the poles, the electric poles, or the denshu, again, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but the electric poles, where they're supposed to be placed. So you might roll a red and a blue, and that means when you pick up your electric pole combination, which is 2 normally different heighted poles connected by a piece of string, you'd need one of them in the red area and one in the blue area. So once you've rolled your dice, you're going to know where you're putting your electric poles, but you don't actually know which ones yet. You're going to pull some cubes from the bag. You normally only pull one, and if it's white, blue or red, well, that's the colour of cable, and they're various different lengths and heights, that sort of thing. However, if you pull a black cube, you'll have to keep pulling until you get one of those white, blue or red cubes, and at the end, if you have successfully added your electric poles to the sort of structure in the middle, you'll then have to, for every black cube, hang a cat off a wire of the colour you've just added. Then you're going to make sure that your placement is all within the rules. The cat's not touching the floor, there's not cables touching each other or poles touching each other, that sort of thing. And if it's alright, well, passing the plate on to the next player, they're going to take their turn by rolling the dice, pulling a cube from the bag and then placing. The game ends as soon as at least one of those denshu, the electric poles, falls over, or the entire structure just completely collapses. At that point in the cooperative mode, you're going to see how many basically of those cubes you've used via a little tracker at the side, and it will give you a level that you've managed to get up to. And don't be embarrassed if, like us, on some of your attempts, it's not a very high level. On the competitive side of things, only one person is going to lose, and that's the person that made it all fall down. Everyone else is a winner. And then you can also step the game up by playing some variants. I won't touch on all of these in much detail, but the Urban Jungle variant I have to highlight because it's a lot of fun. Normally, you would just be building up and up and up as these electric poles come out, but Urban Jungle caps all of the poles' height at 2, so you can only ever stack one on top of another. And as soon as you do that, you put a little bird's nest on top to stop it. You can't go above that on that pole. You can't stack higher. And that means there's an absolute just splodge of poles and wires for you to weave other poles and wires through. It is really a jungle of a dexterity challenge to get through. Just a lot of fun. So that is how you play Nekojima. As I hinted to, I really do prefer it in the cooperative mode. It feels better for me personally when everyone's cheering everyone on, and I think a lot of dexterity games are like this. Either everyone's got to do their own thing, or everyone's got to work together. Because in the cooperative mode, everyone's winning, losing, happy, sort of groaning together. As soon as you go into the competitive mode, it feels a little bad when only one person loses. Obviously, they're the person that's knocked it down, so it does make sense. And you can make it therefore harder for your opponents. Like, right, I'm going to make it so this one is actually going to make it really hard to ever place something more in the blue area. Oh, you've rolled blue, good luck. That sort of thing. And I think the game is fun that way. But it's more fun for me, and I think allows me to be more involved and excited for other players when it is that cooperative mode. I can be excited that you've actually managed to pull that off. Rather than just amazed that you've pulled it off, I'm amazed and I'm celebrating it for part of the team. And when you're going higher and higher on those electric poles and those levels, the game is a lot of fun. It looks visually incredibly different from any other Dexterity game I think I've ever seen. Yes, I've got, say, Catch the Moon that has weird ladders, or Junkart that's got weird shapes. But this has 2 poles of various sizes connected by different coloured cable wire string things. It's just really cool that you're having to put 2 things down at once and then sort of balance them and all of these things. And it just looks visually amazing, and it's amazing to play as well. There are variants, I've skipped over them with the sort of how to play, but my favourite one is Urban Jungle. It completely changes up how you play, or at least how we play. Normally we found that we were going up and up and up and up and stacking poles on top of poles on top of poles. Urban Jungle stops that by saying you can only stack 1 pole on top of another, and then you have to cap it off with a bird's nest. So that just created a very different style of play, as all of a sudden, when we were going up and up and up before, creating a very tall thing, all of a sudden it's condensed, it's dense, it's got that density of poles and wires that you're weaving and squeezing through the middle and having to poke that pole through and hope it balances while you're still holding the other end. And it's not the sort of game mode I would ever teach a brand new player with, because it certainly seems harder. Again, it might just be the people I've played it with, but we found that that sort of limitation on stacking really made it harder, certainly as more and more poles and those cables got added. Even before that though, there is the cats that you do have to dangle, and you pick one of those cats up and you're like, it's cardboard, it's going to dangle off that bit of string just fine, and you know what, most of the time it does. And then there have been times where literally adding that cardboard cat of weight by its tail has just unbalanced the electric poles enough to cause everything to come crashing down. There's also something else that swings around a little bit or gets in the way, and you have to really make sure, we need to think about this, because if I'm going to have to add a cat to this maybe in a minute, it's going to be very close to that wire. It's just another thing to think of from the get-go, and well, it's just like, I've taken my turn, I've added my electric poles and the cables aren't touching, but I do still need to add that cat as like the extra risk that you've got to go through. It's just a fun little extra, so it's not always just poles, poles, poles. If I'm having to be a little bit nitpicky, there is one aspect of the play that just feels slightly awkward, even though it's kind of needed. The rolling the dice to work out where you're supposed to be placing those electric poles, that's super quick. Then putting your hand into a bag to pull out cubes just feels, I don't know why, it just feels sometimes a little awkward, a little bit slow. I don't know why. It's a real quick action to roll dice, put hand in a bag, pull cube out. It just feels like you almost need like a Pez dispenser, so that you just tap the head and out would pop a cube and it would do it for you. I don't know why putting your hand into a bag to pull a cube out feels slow or awkward in this game. I just had that feeling, so I've got to note it. But it is such a minor nitpick. One thing I was concerned about going into the experience was how fresh is it going to feel game after game, and are you going to want to get it to the table and play and play and play. Some Dexterity, the great ones, do that. Others, you play a couple of rounds, you put it back in the box on the shelf, and it will come back out and you'll enjoy it for a couple of turns, but can it keep going? And much like I alluded to my favourite variant earlier with the Urban Jungle, there are a few different variants available to you. They do spice it up. You can just play 2 or 3 normal games and then go, let's play the next one. We're going to throw Urban Jungle or the Expert mode in. And they do a good job of once you've played a couple of times, you would maybe otherwise go, let's put it back in the box. We've had a lot of fun, but we'll get it back out another time and have more fun. Those allow you to go, yeah, I know we've been playing this game for a while now, and we've played a number of rounds, and we've done horrendously in some and fantastic in others. But let's now play with this other slight tweak to the game mode. I think that's fantastic that those little modes are in there. Part of me thinks that urban jungle is so good, you almost want another way to use those tokens, where if you ever roll maybe one of those black symbols on the dice, you have to add one to an already built electric pole. Something quirky like that would be good. But they're in there and they do help you keep that game at the table. So you play 4-5 games in a row and it does feel fresh, rather than just playing 1 or 2 and then, having had fun, pack it away. And that's a really good sign of a good dexterity game. But there you have it, that is Nekojima. I think I've been pronouncing it correctly either way. If I'm pronouncing it right or wrong, it's a lot of fun. It's what you want from a dexterity game. You've got that tension of carefully placing things out, and at some point a whole lot of stuff tumbling, clattering to the table. It's got that sort of choice where you are rolling the dice and sometimes you can place on blue and red sort of thing. And if you're doing it in that competitive sense, you can pick the hardest one. If you're doing it cooperatively, they're going to pick hopefully an easy one for you to do. So it's not always just off the dice. There is a little sometimes player interaction there, or player choice. It's got those other game modes that keep it fresh, and I like all of that. I've just had a lot of fun with this one. You definitely will have fun with this. Whether you're good or bad, like us, we have had fantastic games, and we've had ones where it's over almost as soon as it's begun. But that is all part of the fun when it comes to dexterity. I've not beat around the bush. I play this now firmly cooperatively, and that's how I'm going to continue to play it. But the competitive mode there is there if you do want it, to challenge each other and make it hard for other people to place where would otherwise be easy. But I've had a lot of fun with this, and I'm sure you would too. If you've had a chance to play it, because I've seen it being played and had people having fun with it at conventions, do let me know what you thought of it in the comments section below. But otherwise, until next time, have a Cat Island filled good day.